Microsoft and Team Xbox have filed a legal complaint against Sony since apparently PlayStation has been paying for games not to go to Game Pass. Now, typically in exclusivity deals, you'll pay for something to come to your system, but it sounds like what Sony has specifically been doing is saying, we'll pay you $1 million not to go to Game Pass. But let's read the notes and talk about this because honestly, it's just such an interesting situation. What's up, gamers? DreamcastGuy here. Hi, hope you're having a great day. My morning has sucked. My car broke down on the side of the road in the middle of nowhere, so it's been stressful. Please like this video and subscribe if you haven't already. But now, let's dig into the news. So this article, literally hundreds of subscribers have sent this to me, and I'll be honest, it's such an interesting tidbit. I'm glad a lot of you sent this to me. Xbox has accused Sony of paying developers a Game Pass block fee. The company claims Sony is trying to inhibit growth of its subscription service. Now, let's face facts. Sony and Xbox are in very different spots. Right now, I feel like what Xbox has been doing is just constantly trying to grow the Game Pass brand. I don't think that Microsoft really don't cares if you buy an Xbox One X, a Series X, a Series S, or a PC and get Game Pass on PC. Right now, Microsoft is just Game Pass. The console is just a Game Pass machine. And I do mean that as a compliment. Whereas Sony, they want you to get the PlayStation 5. They want you to buy PlayStation 5 exclusives for $70 each and hopefully to pay for that PlayStation Plus subscription. Whereas this difference of opinion means that their tactics have had to shift as well. Microsoft claims that they've been paying these blocking rights. Now, this came out from these new administration filings that have been happening in Brazil. Essentially, what's happening is this Microsoft Activision Blizzard deal for $70 billion. Every country is sort of having to approve this because, let's face facts, when Microsoft ends up finishing this consumption of Activision Blizzard, it's going to permanently change the gaming industry. And now, basically, everybody has to approve. Is this going to be better? Is this going to be worse? Is this going to be fair? Or is this going to be Sauron completely dominating the world as the Lord of the Rings? Now, here's what's going on. I want to look at their official statement. So they have like a transcription of it here. I found the original printing of it. This is such an interesting line. Considering that exclusivity strategies have been at the core of Sony's strategy to strengthen its presence in the games industry, and that Sony is a leader in the distribution of digital games, Sony's concern with a possible exclusivity of Activision's content is incoherent, to say the least. Now, starting off, this is basically Xbox doing a very direct jab against Sony that I think they're sort of complimenting what PlayStation has been doing, and I think that credit is due. Like, consider the fact that right now, Sony has been killing it with exclusives. Days Gone, freaking everything from Death Stranding, all their big first-party stuff, Spider-Man selling a bajillion copies. Essentially, what Team Xbox is saying here is the fact that if Sony wants to act like playing exclusives is somehow cheating, then Sony's been cheating for years, which I think is a pretty funny sentiment. But it says here, it only reveals once again a fear about innovative business models that offer high quality content at low costs to gamers, threatening a leadership that has been forged from a device-centric and exclusivity-focused strategy over the years. Now, this is definitely correct. Xbox just cares about Game Pass. As long as you have Game Pass, they're going to be happy. Whereas for PlayStation, and I say this as the biggest PlayStation fan on the planet, they want you to have the latest console buying full-priced games day and date. They want you to buy everything at full price, and preferably their exclusives, since obviously they have the highest profit margins. But if you buy third-party stuff, like we mentioned in the last video, even just buying the Call of Duty games every year on the PlayStation has made Sony billions of dollars of net profit every single year. So it seems like them trying to fight against this. I definitely understand Sony's fear of this big deal and why Microsoft really wants this to go through. But here's the juiciest tidbit. Indeed, Microsoft's ability to continue expanding Game Pass has been obstructed by Sony's desire to inhibit such growth. Sony's paying for blocking rights to prevent developers from adding content to Game Pass and other competing subscription services. services. They are directly claiming that what's going on is that Game Pass is objectively growing very, very fast. I think at one point in January or February, there were like 25 million people signed up to Game Pass, which is still just such an utterly bonkers number. But I think it's interesting that right now Sony is making their own games. They're cranking out some very, very good games. I think God of War Ragnarok is going to explode store shelves. But they're still also on the back end trying to make sure that new gamers are going to pick PlayStation first. Now, Sony seems to have two separate tactics in mind. They want to make sure they get exclusivity rights to games, but also Sony, over the course of this last 10 years, has really been pushing the idea of exclusivity marketing rights. Like right now, if you Google most of the Resident Evil games, especially stuff like Resident Evil 4 Remake, a lot of those trailers, a lot of that conversation, a lot of those big teases and stuff end with, hey, this is coming to PlayStation. And it seems like this is sort of the tactic right now. Sony wants every piece of media to say PlayStation at the end of the trailer so people think of them when they think of gaming. And in a lot of ways, it seems like that's actually working. But what kind of strikes this deal as being unique is that, going back to the article here on Video Game Chronicle, you can see that they're talking about the fact that PlayStation has really been working hard to block third-party games from even appearing on other consoles. Like right now, they're talking about the fact that in the Epic versus Apple lawsuit and stuff, they mentioned the fact that Game Pass is a big dominator in the industry. And right now, I think Sony has realized that the way that they can get a leg up is sort of approaching these companies and saying, okay, what do we have to pay you not to go to Xbox? Or if you do go to Xbox, don't take that Microsoft paycheck. Maybe come to PlayStation Plus at some point, maybe come to our subscription service, PlayStation Now and all that, but ignore the Game Pass paycheck. This part right here, though, is sort of what I wanted to dig into because it actually explains the fact that there is a lot of stuff in these legal documents that we don't know. It says that right now there's two sections of these legal reports that have been professionally redacted, meaning that it's probably because of confidentiality agreements, mentioning specific developers that have already taken the Sony paycheck. So the reason I didn't make this video yesterday is I decided to poke around and talk to some sources of mine, and I think I know sort of what the examples they gave here are. Now, one of them, very, very obvious. Let's face facts. Sony is definitely paying for Square Enix games not to go to Xbox, and definitely not to go to Xbox Game Pass. Because right now, obviously, the Final Fantasy VII Remake trilogy only being on PlayStation. Final Fantasy XVI, a mainline gigantic RPG that everybody is incredibly excited for, only coming to PlayStation 5 and PC. Clearly, that exists because of a big Sony paycheck. But what a lot of people have been talking is, okay, who else is taking this money? Now, the rumor I've heard from behind the scenes is Resident Evil Village. So apparently what happened is that while they were finishing up Resident Evil Village, the game is done, they're bug testing it and stuff like that, they started talking to people. Microsoft approached them and said, hey, wouldn't it be a gigantic W for you in player numbers if we put our Village on Game Pass day one? And of course, Capcom was like, yeah, we'll take a paycheck for a game that's already done. Sure, let's do that. And it sounds like Sony stepped in to prevent that sort of deal from happening. Said, okay, how much is Microsoft going to pay? We'll pay more, or maybe we'll pay you right now. Like if they just got, $2 million to do nothing, like that's the weirdness about this. They still sold Resident Evil Village on Xbox. They still sold it on PlayStation. So they essentially got a free paycheck and still all of the original money. Like that's the weirdest part about this, is that Sony seems very dead set on pushing back on anything that would reduce the cost of games. It seems like Sony wants to make sure that things stay at $70 full price as long as humanly possible, even with their own subscription service now in the competition. Like, I love PlayStation Now. I think the free games it has on there are great. I do wish they had stuff from recent times. I wish Sony would go day and date with their own subscription service, but I feel like this really shines a spotlight on the gaming industry as a whole. This has really stirred up the conversation again of, are exclusives toxic? First party or third party, are exclusives to a console good or bad? Now, from a consumer standpoint, objectively, they can be bad, because if there's a game you want, and let's face it, we're all pretty dang broke, if you don't have the console to play it on, then you're just not going to be able to play it. Like right now, I'm super freaking addicted to Xenoblade Chronicles 3. I cannot stop playing this game. I love it so much. But if I didn't have a Nintendo Switch, I probably would not buy a Nintendo Switch for a singular game. You're buying stuff for exclusives. And that's the other side of the coin. Objectively and mathematically, we have the hard numbers that console exclusives boost console sales. And right now, Xbox does not care about console sales. Xbox just cares about Team Game Pass. As long as those numbers are going up, as long as the charts and profit keep increasing, they'll keep investing in it. Whereas Sony, they need you to get that console. They need you to be in their ecosystem completely locked in. This is something that is actually a bit more standard now. Apparently what's been going on is that exclusivity contracts ever since about the PlayStation 3 era are no longer about paying people to be on your system. It is just paying for it not to go to the rivals. Excuse my stuttering there. Paying for like Epic Games, paying so games don't go to Steam. Companies making sure that if it's coming to Nintendo Switch, maybe you pay part of the development cost or you pay an upfront paycheck. It's weird, the phrasing in this legal paperwork, but I still don't think that something is super far astray. I think it's just that Sony has tried to up their paychecks to compete with the fact that Microsoft is buying a lot of studios. Sony wants to keep up. Obviously, we all want to keep up. They want to compete. But as it stands, is this positive or negative for the gaming industry at large? I guess we're still going to have to wait and see. Microsoft is claiming that right now Call of Duty is still going to be third party. It sounds like some Activision Blizzard games are also still going to be coming to PlayStation. I am curious when the dust settles from this deal, how much things are going to be different. And if this is the last super major $70 billion acquisition, what else can be bought? That's the scary thought, isn't it? I do not want a monopoly. I do not want a Disney situation. Right now, Disney owns everything from ESPN to freaking Marvel and Star Wars, and after a bit, they just own so much of every industry. They own so much that other people have trouble even fighting fair with a proper product. So we're going to see how this actually shakes out. But what are your thoughts on this? Tell me your thoughts in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, give it a big old thumbs up, share with your friends, and subscribe if you haven't already. But do me the biggest favor of all, and keep dreaming. All right, man, it's been a day. Love you very much. Seriously, drink water. Thanks so much for watching that video. If you want to see something else, you can always click this link to see what I put up last, or, subscribe and see what's coming up next. Also, I promise that whatever I do, it'll try not to suck.